Okay, the next couple lessons still talking about flex. This time I wanted to talk about putting flex boxes together. So here is one big flex box. Now when I say flex box, that just means that what I'm giving the value of flex to the property of display for that div. Okay, so this box right here is a div. It's a section on the page, and it has the display property of flex. And that puts these two things, 1, 2, next to each other and adjusts them. Now in the second one has a second flex box. Okay, and this one's a column. So this is a second flex box here. So let me show you that in the code. So in the HTML, we're talking, this is the banner. And in this section, we have container for the image. So there's 1, 2 divs inside this div. This is, now you could, I didn't do this, but you could give a class of Flexbox to everything you're going to use Flex with. And then just, in your style CSS, do, Flexbox is display Flex. And then, give a class of column to the ones that you want to have a column. I mean, that's one way to do it. Personally, I like to just define each section of the page and just say what I want to happen in that part of the page. And then when I want to adjust something, I go to that section of the page and adjust that. And I know it's not affecting a bunch of other things that I also named that same thing. But efficiency, for efficiency's sake, some people would prefer to just write Flexbox in there and then column here if that's going to be used as a column, and then just define class column as flex direction column. Here, if you remember, this is 2 different classes. That's how you define 2 different classes. So I have a class dark on this page. This has a dark background, and then it's a light background, and then the next section has a dark background. So I just put the class dark on every other section to have that dark background. And another thing, is transition timing. I think we talked about that. You can see that code here in the CSS. Okay, so in the CSS, the banner is display flex. That's pretty much it, and just the margin there. When it gets smaller, it switches to column. The start is that, this is what is called this, start. And we have that as display flex, flex direction column, content center, justify space around, and a width and a padding. Okay, so that puts the box in a box, and that's really useful. You can see I use that other places as well. See, this has 2 columns next to each other. Here's this whole thing is 1 flex box, and then it's 2 divs. 1 div, 2 divs is inside that flex box, and then in this div is a flex column, which has the picture, the title, the words, the citation, and in this column are a bunch of divs. Okay, so here's a div, there's a bunch of flex boxes here. So this whole thing is a flex box with 2 things in it. And then here's a column, flex box inside there, 4 things in it. This div is a flex box with a column, and then inside each one of those is a flex box side to side, 2 things, 1, 2, and then the second div in each of these boxes is its own flex box with a column. Okay, do you see that? So this is why I usually start a project like this with pencil and paper, drawing boxes on the page. I don't write words. I would just draw a box, draw a box for the picture, just draw lines where it's going to be words, or just write the word title or something, write the word paragraph, something like that maybe. Just draw some lines so I can see where I need divs, where I'm going to want to use flex. So each box needs to be labeled so that it can be defined as flex. Okay, so Hopefully you can see all that. There's one flex box. It's like that puzzle. Like how many squares do you see in this picture? Here's one box with 2 things in it. This box has 4 things in it. This flex box has 3 things in it. So each of those has to be a separate div. And then each div inside there, that's a flex box with 2 things in it. And then this div is a flex box with 3 things in it. So let's look at this HTML one more time. So this div has 2 main sections under it. That's what the flex is going to touch. It's not going to touch these things inside there. It touches like the next level, you know, in like if it was like an outline, like the next level of things there. And then in here, the flex affects these things. All right, so here, info byte. So each of my info bytes here, that's like little, that's what I called these things, each one. So there's that. So inside is an image and then a div. The image and the div are the 2 things that are being affected by the flex on info byte. And then in oh, this div is the image. Okay, the image and then the div are what's affected. They go side by side, the image and the div. Right, and then this is for mobile, this is desktop. So everything mobile is hidden at first, and then at a certain size, everything desktop is hidden and everything mobile is revealed. And then in this div here, these 3 things are affected by flex. Okay, but the flex on info box is just being affected, just affecting these 2 divs, the next level. All right, so play around with that. And where's my start A? Here's that transition for the change of color on start when you hover over it. And so keep playing with those things, design a page, put boxes in boxes, draw it out, paper and pencil first. I really suggest that. And I'll see you next lesson.